Brad, I couldn't agree more. And I think one of the interesting things about that, and I always tell people, clients, students, whoever I'm talking to, is make sure if you do have those differing opinions, don't be afraid to share those opinions with leadership or whoever you're working with. And if you realize the leadership doesn't approve of even different, difference of opinions or different, you might want to start looking for another place to be.
Oh, absolutely, dude. That is fantastic advice, and I will echo that and say plus one 100%.
Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it.
I think I said people too many times, but you know what I mean, right? Like some, and it's therapeutic to a point, but it also builds community, it builds culture, it builds authenticity and trust. And I think about all the mentorship conversations and the one-on-ones I have in my day-to-day and in my career. And, once you get the courage of just being authentic and speaking your truth, as they say, you find out more and more there's so many people like, yeah, I've experienced that too. Absolutely. Yeah. And then once you realize you're not alone, not only does it help that community I just talked about, it gives you confidence to continue to grow and continue to go forward. And I think, I love the social media revolution because, and there's a lot of detractors and hate stuff out there and negativity, but if you look at all the good it's brought in the sense of community it's done for a lot of people, it's connected people that otherwise would have never even crossed paths or never shared common interest. And you know I've been picking up photography lately. It's a whole long story on that, but just the ability to ask questions in a comfortable, safe space, if you will, and not be criticized for it, and not have to go pay some camera store to teach me how to do this. It's amazing, but it builds that confidence. You get better and better, and it's everything. I mean, I learned how to change brakes on a car. Like a crazy story. I used to always go take it in, and one day the guy at the counter gave me attitude and was like a real rude to me. And I went and watched a couple of YouTube videos, talked to some people, and I learned how to change my own brakes. Don't have time to do it these days, but it's just the power of social media and networking, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I built my business off Google and YouTube because as you know, I'm a historian by trade. I work in museums. I don't have a marketing degree, or I don't think there is a social media degree, but you know what I'm saying? It's one of
Yeah.
those things. If you're willing to put the hours and hours and hours into it, there's incredible benefits you can receive.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think that you mentioned the social media degree or the marketing degree, and that's really the talk about disruptors, right? The fintech disruptors, the traditional, Silicon Valley disruptors. Social media and pay for paid courses are disrupting the education system like none other. And regardless of where you stand with the politics of Elon Musk right now, I mean, he was talking about this a while back that he's not really looking for degrees, he's looking for experiences and certifications. And I've seen that in my space a lot, and I started talking about that years ago. It was like, man, you know all due respect to the traditional education system, but you can go online. One of the best coders that I ever worked with was a self-taught, self-trained YouTube online course slash just go out and figure it out on their own. And if you have the passion and the dedication, like you just mentioned, you can pretty much learn anything online now. And I've heard more and more people talk about it. Like, if you're really interested, you go out and do it. You'll find the time, you'll find the resources, you'll take the right ones. I was talking to someone last night over text, and I sent him a screenshot. I said, these are 28. Yeah, I've been really fascinated with AI and no code, low code solutions. And that's where I kind of got hung up on the website. I'm used to old HTML, CSS website development. And I'm like, man, there's all these plugins and add-ons now where I can just type prompts and it's going to build for me. This is wild. So I'm looking at all these low code, no code solutions, and I was like, here's a list of that I found online of 28 AI program software apps, whatever, that if you can master, and they all have introductory courses, you'll probably have just as good of a computer science education as someone going to a 4-year school. And they were like, I can do this over the course of a month. I'm like, that's what's really groundbreaking about it.
And Brad, I appreciate you saying that. And for me, it's not even, let's say, likely will I go into coding? No. That being said, using things like that, you can know enough to be dangerous, which means you can know enough to hire the right people and make sure they're doing what you actually need them to do. I think sometimes we sit and we don't really understand it, and instead of just saying I don't care, I don't understand, I always like to, I guess part of me is I always think of the History Channel, the Modern Marvels, or how it
Yeah.
works, or
Mhm.
things like that. I like to know just a little bit, just so I kind of had that baseline understanding.
Oh, dude, two of my favorite shows, by the way. Absolutely. And I think it goes back to natural curiosity, right? And, like, am I ever going to put somebody on the moon? No, I'm not that guy. But I am curious. Like, I'll watch an episode on how rocket propulsion works and, how it started, during World War II and how it's evolved to it today. And just fascinating. I mean, I've done a lot of travels, I guess, in my work, and that's made me kind of an aero, what they call those, air nerd or something. I forget what it is. But anyway, like airplanes, I know all the types of airplanes I've flown on, but understanding how it works, because, like, you think about it, you're trusting your life to sit on this steel tube being flung through the sky at 700 miles an hour. How does it work? How do I know this thing is really safe? And there's some great modern marvels on airplanes, but then watching how the engines work, it's fascinating, man. Av geek, that's what it was. I'm an av geek now, but dude, I love it. I love the curiosity. We do have that same curiosity, and there's some great episodes. Like, if you're not watching Modern Marvels or any of those show how it works, how it's made, the history. What is the history of? It's like the history of America, but then they do like food in America and then cars in America, and they talk about like finance in America and how like Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan and all these guys built like those shows are phenomenal, and they're free, and you can go watch them on demand, and you're getting just as good of it. I shouldn't say that, I'll offend some people, but in my opinion, you're getting, some schools probably don't have as good of an education as the History Channel puts out.
The original History Channel, H2, and things like that.
Oh yeah.
While I love Ancient Aliens, there are some things these days that have me scratch my head a little bit, but I do enjoy for that stuff. It's funny because I love the entertainment factor, but it is one of those things. I think I always encourage people to just be naturally curious or continue to be curious.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you will go far just trying to understand things, understand people, understand situations. You know, I was talking to someone at work just the other day, and I found a quote today. It was really interesting on, I don't know if it was LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever, and it said, "When you're dealing with a problem, be soft on the person but tough on the problem." And it's be curious, ask to understand, seek to understand. And dude, like, I'm not perfect at it. There's times where I'm sure I fall short of that, but it's like, man, don't ever blame the person, the situation. Like, we have that problem, we have that challenge in common together, and it's up to us to find the solution, right? And we were talking about something at work early this morning, and I was like, yeah, I mean, this is our standpoint, and it was really good because the other individual's like, yeah, this is where I need your help, and I'm like, and this is where I want to help. So, like, we have that, we admire that the problem is joint, and it's not about this. I used to call this the old corporate salute, and I'm like, yeah, be curious. And when you understand the problem, you see both points of view, you usually get to a resolution faster. I mean, not only does it help you to the points we were talking about, grow as a person, grow in your career, and be more successful, it helps you solve problems faster. It helps you just make the world a better place in your own way.
Brad, I couldn't agree more. On everyone's journey, you can go east, you can go west. You give me a time, you made a decision, just went for it.
Me? Oof. Uh, yeah, I mean, I think my current role that I have was, it's kind of came out of the blue, came out of nowhere, and just decided that, what, it's a career risk willing to take. It's paid off thus far. It's been very successful, but it was a risk, and you didn't have all the facts. Was in a great comfortable situation, but I think the key is getting out of your comfort zone, right? So I looked at it and said, you know what, I have to take the chance and try it, and even if I fail, it's okay because I tried it. Never ever leave something to what could have been, should I have done it, and take the risk. Don't you're never going to know all the facts, but have enough, confidence in yourself, have enough reasonable expectation of what's going to happen to take that risk. And it's a big career change. Um, but it's paid off, and there's going to be points like that in life. I think my favorite one though was the decision to move to Missouri, because I had, look, growing up in Milwaukee, I mean, we're Northerners, we're Yankees, as they say. Missouri is kind of the South. Missouri will tell you it's not the South, and I've lived here long enough, and I'm a big fan of the city now, believe it or not. But I got the job in 2011 and had never set foot in Missouri. So I threw a suitcase in the back. I had a Jeep Grand Cherokee at the time and drove from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to St. Louis, Missouri. And it's not that bad. I drove 5 hours. And I remember thinking, what did I do? And I took the risk, right? I was just like, you know what? I'm going to do this. It's going to change my life. And, about a year later, I met who would become my wife. I was married 3 years later. I've now got 3 amazing kids, a fantastic family. And, we define success in a lot of ways. And everyone wants to talk about the career and all that. It's fantastic stuff. But to me, success primarily is being a good father and a good husband. And I'm not perfect. I fail at that all the time. But, that risk pays off. So when you say just, take a wild decision, I had no desire. I remember saying, I'm going to do this for 2 years and move back to Wisconsin, and it didn't work out that way, but it was the best thing I ever did, because of it. And, you have faith, just try it, take the risk, please take the risk. Always take the risk. Never leave anything with a question mark behind you.
Brad, I couldn't agree more on that. And I think so much of that is you take the risk. Let's say it doesn't work out how you planned and you end up moving back. There are very few people who have success that will ostracize you or say negative about you. Of course, I think a lot of times you get your friends, maybe have a couple drinks and they're like, oh, it didn't work out. Well, that was pretty cool. You did that. Or, as I know with a lot of guys and a lot of friendships like that, they'll give you a hard time, but you get a couple more beers and everyone's like, okay, man, that's pretty cool that you're doing that, or you did that, or, hey, I'm impressed by you,
Oh, dude, 100%. And people who are really in your circle, in your corner, yeah, we give, that's our nature. We give each other grief, but they are really proud and impressed when you take that risk. And the other thing is, don't ever let the doubt stop you. At the end of the day, you got a small circle of friends that you spend a lot of time with. You got a small family. They're what matters. And I try to teach my kids this, and they're still pretty young, but I learned in high school to stop caring what people think. Be number one, be authentic and be you, be true to yourself. But number two, I mean, if somebody really is not going to support you, or somebody is not going to be impressed by the stuff like we just talked about, that's because they're not doing anything with their own life, right? Like nobody hates somebody doing less than them, right? It's always somebody doing more than them, right? And you want to surround yourself, number one, with people like that, like you talked about. They may give you grief, but they're proud of you. They're like, dude, that was amazing. You did that. When you attract the right people, it gives you the confidence, it gives you the platform to do it, but also it makes you ready to take the bigger risk, and you slowly build up and the risks get bigger. And I've been impressed watching your journey with Swick Media, man. Like, dude, it's given me inspiration to do some of the things I'm working on the side that I'm not ready to talk about yet, that we will be talking about soon. But it's been really inspiring to see that, because you took a risk and you're like, this is what I want to do, this is what I'm passionate about. And when you do that, man, the sky's the limit. But surround yourself with good people. They say, what is it, if you see 5 billionaires, you'll be the next, or something like that, some saying like that. You are who you surround yourself with. And try to always, man, surround yourself with good people who motivate you, who want to do more, who want to push you. I saw a TikTok video or something today, and someone flew business class for the first time. And they took a video and they said, something I noticed in business class. I showed everybody's like reading or working on stuff in business class, right? Sure. And she said, it really is different up here. I said, well, it's an interesting observation. Now I'm of the digital age, right? So like I'm reading on a phone or a tablet or something, but yeah, I mean, I use the time in the air for the same purposes, but it's you surround yourself with people who have good habits, who want to grow and want to push yourself, right? Like, God, what is the saying? So people, there's like 3 different levels of conversation, right? And to your point, you're surrounding yourself with people who talk about ideas and concepts, right? with the coaching circle I'm in and all the stuff we do, like I'm always talking about business ideas and growing and where the opportunities are in market sectors, right? And being in that conversation changes your perspective. It makes you a better person as well, not just from a growth perspective, but from what you can accomplish with your life.
Brad, I couldn't agree more, and I appreciate the kind words as well. Man, title of the podcast, Into the Unknown. What are you working on now? What do you got going on that you're able to share? I know you got a lot of things cooking in the kitchen.
Um, you know, I'm on a really big project for my employer right now that's consuming a lot of my time. In fact, while I was waiting to start this, I was working on that. Pretty significant, which that's work, right? That's the work. But passion project wise, you know, we're, number one, the reason I got into photography, just to be fully transparent here, was when you're coaching, first of all, I've got 3 kids that are very active in sports. They typically are playing multiple sports simultaneously. And, there's just me and my wife, and there's 3 of us. So we are always coming and going to practices or games. We have to, divide and conquer. Well, we were at the year-end banquet for baseball. We had no pictures of my kid. Like, just nobody really had any pictures of my kid. And then one of the parents was talking, was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we hired a photographer to come, to one of the games and take really good photos? And just like, you talked about how I'm like, dude, I'm a smart guy. I can figure out how to do this. So, you know, bought a camera, since bought a second camera, figured out the lenses and everything. And been working on launching kind of a sports photography studio with a couple guys. So that's really, really cool. I mean, if you see some of the pictures on my Facebook page that I've taken, I mean, I've learned a lot relatively quickly, but more importantly, I'm capturing memories. So it's really like, I love it, but I'm also preserving, for hopefully my grandkids, they can see their hopeful, their dads, right, when they were kids and everything. And I love that, and that's kind of bubbled up to where I'm working on a lot of creative projects with like custom sports cards. There's a vendor that I use. I think I introduced Reclaim Customs.
Yes.
I've become friends with those guys, and we're collaborating like every week on stuff. Man, we got all kinds of cool stuff coming down the pipeline. That they're just an amazing group of guys. They do great work, and I'm a creative individual apparently. I'm always having these ideas like, dude, this would be so awesome. So we're working on that. I'm actually in the process of writing a couple books and a couple manuals on some things. So that's really cool stuff, in fact. And they're just kind of like, everybody writes a book, right? Like, leadership, coaching, things like that. And, someone asked me in this process as I've been networking, they said, well, do you have any experience like writing any books? And I've never written a book. I said, well, have you ever written anything for work? Started going back through my resumes, and I keep track of what I've done over the years. And we came up with this really interesting stat, which is I've written 143 internal trainings or documents or papers on things within the industry, within the payments industry. And they're all proprietary and confidential for them. When you do stuff like that at work, it becomes their IP, right? But I was just blown away to like look back at my journals and be like 143 trainings and documents. It made me feel old for some reason. Now in your line of work, that's probably like nothing, right? But I was like, man, that's pretty cool. So more to come on that. You'll hopefully see some pretty cool stuff coming out on that front. And yeah, there's a really big project I wish I could share, but I'm not at the stage. But when that project is ready to be launched, I have a plan to involve you in that project. So stay tuned, my friend.
I'm looking forward to it, man. If people want to learn more about you, what you do, are you on social media anywhere? Where can people find you?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably the best for my career stuff. But yeah, it's LinkedIn Brad Stillman. Pretty straightforward. I've not launched my blog yet, but I have purchased 6 different domains. So I think you can start to put together some of the stuff I'm working on. So I've got 6 different domains now that I've purchased. So more to come on that. In fact, we should get together again when I'm ready to launch. I think we'll have a really good conversation. I am on, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. I'm probably most active on Facebook in terms of coaching and philosophy. LinkedIn, really just for networking. I used to blog a little bit on there, but with how busy I've become at work, I haven't had the chance to do that. So more to come on that.
Brad, I look forward to it. And man, I just want to thank you again for taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, dude, thank you for having me. And this has been a long time coming. And I look forward to hopefully having more of these great conversations in the future, man. Love what you do.
We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, my friend.
That was another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.